To the Candle Enthusiast. I'm your host, Shane Carlson, and this is Smell It Sunday, a weekly live stream where we get together and we talk about candles and nostalgia, things that make us feel good in the heart region. And yeah, another Sunday. Here we are. How was your week? Mine was busy, but I enjoyed it. I feel fulfilled. So to celebrate, I broke out some Disney themed candles. Now, if you know me, if you really know me, you'll know that I am a deeply devoted uh, and lifelong Walt Disney fan, and the Walt Disney Company, whether it be the parks, the films, this just the history of the mouse, so to speak. Uh, Big place in my heart reserved for Disney, and why not? Disney candles, candles themed based on park rides, some of the films, characters. I'm going to be talking about a candle company called SPIRESIDE Candle, formerly known as Anthology Candles. And I think way back in 2017, when I was really just getting this channel started, I wanted to find a company that was doing Disney candles, Disney scents specifically, and not just funny names, but a company that was really trying to tell the story of the character of the film or the ride, whatever it may be. And it was hard, I remember at the time, because I feel like from 2017 to now, the small production candle industry has grown substantially, which is fabulous. That's what I really always wanted to see. But at the time, I really had to investigate. And of course, there's a lot of things, but because of licensing issues, there's not many companies out there in the world who can really afford to license uh, the likeness of Disney characters and put them on candles. So it was always it was a very challenging thing to find. Now there's a few that slip through the cracks that don't actually use things that would cause copyright infringement, uh, because a lot of Disney characters actually are not Disney characters, right? They're adaptations of copyright-free uh, uh, fairy tales, princesses from long, long ago. So I came across a company. At the time, it was called Anthology Candles. And, you know, I really had nothing to go on. I couldn't ask anybody. I didn't know anybody, I should say, that had burned their candles. Things like Reddit, I wasn't really a thing for me, at least back then. Message boards, the whole online candle community was not anything as it is today. So I did a video on on a Beauty and the Beast themed candle, and on candles plural, and one of the candles was from this anthology candles, and I was blown away. I actually have it here with me today. We'll talk about that particular candle. But I knew right during that review, I was on camera smelling it for the first time. I knew, like, wow, this is exactly the candle company I had been looking for. They were really not just coming up with a clever name or a clever image and giving you a serviceable aroma. They were really trying to tell that story, portray, in this case, it was Belle from Beauty and the Beast. Shortly thereafter, the company renamed, I'm not quite sure, but they renamed to SpireSide Candle. And through the years, they've put out limited edition labels for their Disney candles. And I have quite a selection right here. And I thought, I haven't really looked at these in ages. I can't remember the fragrance notes of most of these. So why don't we do a blind sensory evaluation? Let's like sit down, take a look at the label, take a look at the name, analyze it any way we can, just visually, and then aromatically. Let's break this down and see what happens. This is precisely what I do if I am in a candle buying scenario or smelling a new candle line or a new candle company that I've never smelled before. A lot of the videos that I've made over the years, I do many takes, or maybe I have smelled the candles prior to recording the video, so I have a vague sense of where I'm going. In this case, most of these, I can't remember what they smell like. So you'll be seeing in real time my evaluation process, not a review. This is not a review. This is an evaluation process of how I break down these aromas. SPIRESIDE candle, Disney. All right, so that's what we're going to do. I want to welcome everybody to the chat area. And if you're one of those in the chat area, I'm going to pull you guys up right now because that is always the first step. I want to, if you're have the means, the ability to open up the live chat area, come on in and would love to have a discussion. The more of us there are, always the more fun it is. Virgil and Matthew, man, you guys don't miss a beat. First two in the chat area. How we doing, guys? Virgil, you are long overdue for an email. I have to send one to you, and Stephanie, you as well. I actually just sent you a message. So let's jump right into this. I need to have. I'm parched. And the only thing I had going on as an option was this right here. Mountain Dew Zero Sugar. I'm not a big soda fan. I don't do soda. I love carbonation, but I don't do soda. Oh, but if that is not nostalgic, I don't know what is. That reminds me of bowling alleys and arcades in the late 80s, early 90s right there. And that's pretty good for diet. I definitely can't do non-diet soda. The sugar is it's just too much to me. It doesn't cooperate with my body. Tony, hello from New Haven. We have a neighbor from Connecticut in the house. Tony, welcome. All right. So let's talk about that candle that I was just talking about. Now, this doesn't have a fancy label. We're going to see some really, really pretty labels coming up. This was an older selection from SPIRESIDE Candle, and it had a name change because, as I said, there's always that copyright issue. They had to change that. I think they renamed Enchanted Library because of, Bell you can certainly say that Disney has ownership of that name when it comes to Beauty and the Beast. So Bell's Library. I gotta remember the camera's on this side. Now, we gotta really get into a mode here of deep thinking when it comes to evaluating these candles. Now, whether it be candles, whether it be a wine that I am tasting, I go through the same process. You don't just start with the glass. You start with, you use anything you can before you go in for the sniff and the taste. And that's including the bottle of wine. And if the bottle of wine, of course, most of those bottles are going to have a vintage on it, then you have to really consider that vintage. And then you have to consider the location, not just the location of the winery, but what about the vineyards? Are the grapes coming from Many different vineyards. Are the grapes coming from two different wine regions, grape growing regions of the world? There's so much to evaluate before you actually go deep into sniffing the wine. And the same thing goes for candles. Although, like I said, we have limited information here. We have not a lot going on with the labels. No picture or illustration of any kind here. Just Belle's library. So if we think about that scene in the film, if we've seen Beauty and the Beast, the Beast surprises Belle by letting her use his private or the castle's library, which is gargantuan. And then he goes to offer her. He offers her the entire library. He gives it to her. Now, how old do you think that library was in the castle? And I know the Beast probably had a crush on Belle, but he's just kind of he just gives that whole library to her. I mean, that's a lot. That is a lot. That's a big gift. But in all sincerity, if we go into that castle, what are the things that we see in a castle library? What kind of materials? Stone, wood, what kind of furniture, rugs, tapestries? Are there candles lit? What are the books bound with? Is the library somewhat clean and fresh? Or does it have a good layer of dust? Does the sun shine in through those windows every day, or do the windows stay closed? And we don't have a lot of circulation. And does the library get cool, cold, maybe even dank? A little burpee right there in the chest. So all of those things to consider before going in here. And then the red wax, I don't know. I mean, when I think of Belle, I don't think of red. When I think of library, I don't think of red. Nothing's really coming to the forefront. But let's give this a sniff and see what's going on here. Wow. Yeah, that's a fun candle. I mean, that is in a category of maybe you wouldn't want to burn it, but you can still kind of like it and wish that it was on your shelf. So you could pick it up every now and then and sniff it. We're in a territory of this is just as much fun as a scratch and sniff book when we were kids. I mean, really, isn't that not what we're doing here? We're taking some of our favorite childhood stories, even if they're contemporary Disney stories. It's still tapping into a very nostalgic childhood place within us. And we're smelling that world that we fell in love with, the animation. And also, again, we have to not kind of conceal this as in the film, but as in the park as well. And I want to thank you, Paul, for your contribution today, your super chat, and your fox emoji. Good job. Thank you, Paul. Very much appreciate that. Virgil saying Goose Creek licensed Hocus Pocus from Disney. How cool was that, right? Yeah. That I have to say I was a little bit shocked. I mean, not shocked that that's an awesome idea, but yeah, I mean, we're back in the day it was Touchstone that Hocus Pocus was you know owned by, but Touchstone was owned by Disney. But it would have been easier, I think, to see something like that happen under the umbrella of Touchstone, but under the umbrella of Disney, to see, not that Goose Creek is small, but to see this massive mammoth of, the Walt Disney Company or the Disney Company work with the candle company. It was very interesting. All right, so I'm stalling here. I'm not sure quite where to start or where I want to start. There's plenty of places to start. So the red wax pulls something to the forefront immediately, and that's going to be the rose. The rose. Now let's not forget the story of Beauty and the Beast, right? The prince concealed inside of a castle with the magic mirror. his only window to the outside world. And he had that rose that would bloom until his 21st year. If the prince could learn to love another by the time the last petal fell, the spell would be broken. But if not, the prince would be doomed to remain a beast for all time. As years passed, the prince fell into despair and lost all hope. For who could ever learn to love a beast? I mean, those are high stakes. Those are really, really high stakes. But that rose that sat there and dwindled as the prince got older, that's what we're smelling here. A really, really fragrant floral of the rose, but the muskiness of the rose. So not just the bright, fruity petals, but the musky, the low frequency musk. And what's really interesting here is that there's two kind of musks in this candle that play together. We have that rose, right? Musky. But then imagine the smell of, like, okay, you're in some city, okay? A smaller size city, and it's a quiet day, spooky quiet. And you find this little boot shop, shoe or boot shop on the far edge of the city. And it doesn't look like much from the outside, but as soon as you walk in, you see all of this collection of different style of shoes and boots. You know, there's someone doing repairs, several people doing repairs in the corner. Everything smells like hot leather and fabric and adhesive. Let's go for it. And then you look for you see these pair of boots and you're like, I must have these. And they're like, well, if you love those, you're gonna love what we have in the back. And the owner of the shoe shop, follow me here, okay, comes out with this old box. It's tattered. It's been sitting around for a while. This cardboard box. And he gives it to you and he says, check them out. And you open up that cardboard box, and inside the box, you see these heavily worn but repaired, freshly treated pair of brown leather boots. Brand new laces, you know, a nice oil finish that has recently been applied, but the leather has been worn. It has been used. It has seen many, many, many steps on the earth, the soil of farmlands and countrysides. What is the smell of the inside of that box, right? Think about that. That brand new smell of boots, but also kind of the smell of a pair that's been very well loved and worn. Mix that together inside of that cardboard box. The muskiness of leather is what I'm going for here. There is a very uh, um, moving smell of leather here. Again, I think anything that reminds us of, oh, if we smell grandpa's flannel shirt, if we smell the inside of dad's car, or if we smell, I don't know, Belle's closet where she keeps all of her shoes and boots. It's a very personal thing. So when we smell something like that, we feel very close. It's very intimate, is what I'm trying to say. And I feel like that leather is not just leather. It has this signature of somebody has worn this boot. So the muskiness of the leather, the muskiness of the rose, perfect, perfect example of two things complementing each other, or bridging, if we want to be more specific, because these are, you know, the qualities are similar, but it adds depth to the lower frequencies, if you will, to this candle. And, you know, I think when I remember talking about this candle years ago, I was sold on just this rose. I think there's some liberties here with the smell of this rose. Maybe there's some other floral notes that complement the rose inside this candle. I am not a floral person. I mean, I can name off some florals, but as far as giving you any degree of extreme accuracy when it comes to florals, I'm never going to be your guy for that. But, you know, I mean, I do feel like there is a mixed floral effect here. Nothing really pungent unless you, well, I guess rose is pungent, but I don't mean like, I got to find a good word for something you smell and immediately you feel it up here and you feel it in here. It's not that stargazer lily effect, but it smells like springtime. It smells fresh. And with that, there is the greenness of the rose as well. So when we get our half dozen roses, Valentine's Day is coming up, folks, right? You're going to go pick up your flowers and you walk into the florist's. What's the first flower that you smell? You could probably say rose, especially during Valentine's Day. But what is really the first thing you smell when you walk into the florist? It's all of those clipped stems, right? They're pulling those flowers out from the display cases and they're snipping all of these stems. And there's just this everlasting green chlorophyll smell that just permeates the walls from really any floors that you go into. So although this is a very red, rosy smell, we have to remember that there is an extreme green, fresh quality to it as well. And that green may even evoke in our minds the smell of the French countryside that Belle runs around in, the hills of grass. She's got that moment. It's kind of like the Julie Andrews Sound of Music moment where she runs out into the field and she's, just kind of asking the world, where does she belong? And it's a very, both in the animation and the live action film that was released a bunch of years ago, beautiful stuff. And if you just think about, that meadow, that hill up on, a high elevation, a mountain, a cliff, whatever it may be, where the wind is really rolling, moving the smells of springtime all around. Belle's Library by Spireside Candle. So just a little footnote is that I believe this has been renamed Enchanted Library. What we can do real quick, since I have the website pulled up, I can see if they have it in stock, or also what we can do is check out the fragrance notes. It is called Enchanted Library. It is available for sale on the website spireside.com. This is not a sponsored video, folks. Okay, not much here of scent notes, but it does say aged library books. So here's the thing. I was saying, I'm getting ahead of myself. Now I was saying boots, but I didn't really say why the boots were important. The leather was important. I hope you guys are following me. I should have immediately said that the leather-bound books of the library gave you that leather. I don't know. I kind of screwed that one up. But yes, so, they're not going to just make a candle, be like, oh, it smells like Belle's boots. And that's the choice that we've made. No, the leather of those boots, it's a really interesting concept because we take something that comes from the library. And for me, I don't think Spireside was ever trying to suggest, and I hope I didn't make it sound like they were trying to suggest that there was a boot component in this candle. But it's funny how when you're really analyzing a concept, how your brain can take those tangents and enrichen the whole experience. And because I've talked about this candle years ago, I just been so, I'm on like autopilot to say that this always smelled like those boots out of the box. But of course, um, the library, the leather bound books is what they're going for. It says wild roses and a hint of leather. So let me say that all again. It says aged library books, no leather bound books. It's aged library books, wild roses, and a hint of leather. Well, I think it's more than a hint. Wild roses, I'll go with that. Aged library books, I really smell the leather. That's what I'm getting as far as an old book. Because if we were really talking about the old dusty pages, I'm all aboard for that. I'm totally down for that. But I don't know if I can identify anything specifically that's making me think of dust. Enchanted library. All right. This is good. I should speed up a little bit though because we have a lot of candles here. All right. So we had a Beauty and the Beast. We have another Beauty and the Beast. Let's go into that. You know, it's good to see these side by side. So we're really going to be seeing these labels now. So I wasn't kidding. I want to fix this lighting. Let's see if that helps. That doesn't help. Let me do this. Yeah. Okay, just gives us a little bit more light. Still very warm lighting, but look at these limited edition labels. Let's try to get a nice focus. I'm forgetting the name of the artist who did all of these. I'm sure his signature is here. It is. It is Jeff, very small, but I remember it's Granita, Jeff Granita. That is entirely way too small for me to read, but it's called Beast's Castle. Got the castle in the background. What's very interesting about this art is it's reminiscent to the artist Mary Blair. Mary Blair worked for Walt Disney for, I don't know, decades. I'm not sure how long, but she inspired so many things when it comes to the world of Disney. The concept art of like Sleeping Beauty, Legend of Sleepy Hollow, so many of the films, but then like completely designed, had the very specific look for rides like It's a Small World. I mean, if you look at this Art Deco, would it kind of go into that category? It's very specific. There's you see this kind of art, and you're like, it reminds you of Disney. Alice in Wonderland is a great example. Like, there was no other animation or just illustration like this at the time. And Mary Blair was always, I want to do a deep dive into the library of all of her work, but I've always been a kind of a casual admirer of her work. And although her artwork didn't really look like these labels, it still plays with, um, it's sort of an homage, if you will. The colors, the hard edges. So Bell's Castle or Bell's Library and Beast's Castle. So this is the Beast side of things, right? We had what I think a very successful portrait of Belle the character. This one's going to be tough. I'm just going to be straight about it up front. Okay, so again, my mind is going through any kind of possibility within that castle exterior and interior to try to discover a place to start, to try to find a connection an association visually and aromatically. And the first thing that really is making a connection is this, I'm always saying the same thing. So I'm going to really try to make it sound like I haven't said these things 100 times before. But when you imagine walking into the Beast Castle and, large spaces and length and height and depth. And, I guess for me, the only thing I can relate to that experience, I haven't walked into many castles, grand castles, but I have walked into a lot of cathedrals. I'd love any chance I get to walk into any kind of church, but let's say a cathedral with enormous history. A lot of these cathedrals, almost all of them, have like suffered from fire at one point or been hurt by some kind of, I don't know, I guess depending on where you are, been affected by war. But, when you walk into that cathedral, there's that overwhelming, there's everything visually, even just to walk into a space that, um, I don't know, that is, it is an interior space, but is so large. How the ventilation works, how aromas carry. It's a little bit different, right? I would imagine. I'm thinking about, I walk into St. Patrick's Cathedral whenever I'm in New York City for the holidays. I always kind of stop in there and, everyone's lighting candles. There's an enormous amount of residual incense smoke in the air. And I don't know. It's not like the smell hits you in the face. It's more of like the smell is there and you walk through it. It doesn't necessarily come to you and like, so there is this feeling of a fireplace has been burning in this castle, maybe many fireplaces, but at least one large fireplace is burning, but it's went out because there's a lot of cold smells in here for me. This is not, I don't necessarily smell this and think warmth. This is more of the time of the night when the fire is dying and the you know the those little smoldering coals at the bottom of the fireplace and the cinders, the smoky ashy material spread everywhere. And I'm gonna guess sandalwood. We have to right now talk about the wood components here. The wood helps out with this image of that old grand fireplace, but the wood also creates more to the environment than just that. I'm sure there has to be very old, antiqued, huge slabs of wooden furniture all throughout this castle. Um, and that's definitely coming through. I'm going to say sandalwood is, because it's a little perfumey. It has a little bit of this clone, exotic nature to it, not like an oak barrel and not like firewood. This one's really tough. It's not a very, I feel like it's a complex candle, but it's not very intense on cold here. Um, Okay, so I'm gonna say that there's a spiciness. There's got to be some kind of spice in the realm of clove and dried berries. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if the fragrance notes went into red currant, but I wouldn't be even. I'm quite sure is that there's going to be something like toasted spice. Um, Clove, I don't think is what I'm smelling. I don't want to say resin, but I want to go back to this idea of incense. You know, it's kind of, I think maybe I'm getting a clear image of how I'm interpreting that fireplace now. I'm smelling that smoky, sweet incense, but also the expired stick when we burn that incense, right? There's that smokiness from the wood and the smokiness from the biomass here. Not picking up on any florals, but I wouldn't surprise if they were here. When it comes to fruit, I'm not getting any citrus. If you know, it's going to be berry, if anything. Herbal, I don't know. Amber, no, I don't know. I'm. This one has put me to the test a little bit, and I'm actually very interested to see what is in this. Let's look it up. Um, you know, I'm just hoping that they still have it. Because I know most of these were limited, like limited editions. Yes, they don't even have it anymore. Well, that's just great because what maybe the mystery, if I spend some more time with this, which usually is obviously what we all do when we burn a candle, uh, you know, the story could unfold. And that's really what I really do enjoy about the process of complex aromas. Um, but I still am a little bit upset with myself. I'll be honest that I wish I could have pulled a little bit more out of that one. But I honestly, I'm sure I smelled it at some point, but can't remember. All right, this one is really pretty label. Check it out. Where is that shadow coming from? Oh, the shadow's coming from the iPad itself. Okay. Um, let's try to get in as close as we can here. I know that's a soft focus, but Spireside candles, snowy white. Look at the colors and look at Snow White. I love this. It's taking Snow White, it's putting her in the wintry forest. Yeah, I remember this was one that I think that kind of sold the deal on me. I'm like, oh man, I got to start getting some of these. When I saw these, you know, these limited edition labels, I'm like, maybe these just would look nice sitting on my shelves, and that's precisely where they've been. We have the squirrel here holding a peppermint candy. I see a straw. Oh, actually, that's an apple. Of course, it's an apple. But these fun, like it's a small world looking snowflakes and Christmas trees, and how cool does Snow White look? Snowy white, snowy forest, snowy apple, snowy peppermint. The squirrel's holding a peppermint. Yes. In fact, that's really what is going on. They're being very literal here. So peppermint for sure. A nice um, after dinner mint. You know those after dinner mints. Sometimes they're shiny. Sometimes they're like have like that powdery sugar matte finish. But they're big and chunky. But when you bite into it, they just kind of collapse. That airy minty candy. not like an Altoid, where it's like, oh, it's minty, Sometimes it's a bit much. This is more on the sweet confection, powdery sugars, peppermint side. Yeah, and okay, so they're really giving it away on the label here. There is also that apple, which with the sugar and the apple, it's reminding me somewhat, not a lot, somewhat of Yankee Candle's sugared apple. Remember that candle? That was a favorite. Everyone loved that one. But what's different here is that inclusion of that cooling mint. But again, not too cooling because it is more on the sweet side. And the herbalness of that mint comes through. There's a little bit of that green mint freshness too. So it's not just a candy peppermint or a peppermint oil. There's a kind of a peppermint leaf. Yeah, it's kind of funny how all of the sugar, all of the candy that I'm visualizing when I smell this is white. Like I'm thinking of the icing that's on like a gingerbread house. Um, I'm thinking of like the chalky. Remember the little candy cigarettes, those vintage candies come in the little box. The chalky candy, like it's very chalky, powdery sugar. Is what I'm trying to say. Is what it really smells like and what it's reminding me of, and how appropriate that the name of the candle is called Snowy White, um, because it kind of smells, and well, at least it reminds me of the snow on a gingerbread house. Um, I'll be honest, I wish there was a little bit something else, and I'm sure there's a lot more going on here that I'm not evaluating, maybe. But I feel like even that apple that's there, that would be really hard, I think, for anyone to identify that apple if we didn't already know it was in the candle. Um, so maybe something else. Could we add something to make this a little bit more organic, grounded? Could we put in, I don't know, a woody component here to just maybe not overload it, but to give it a little bit maybe more atmosphere? The dwarves' little cabin in the forest, a little covered bridge, or just a birch tree covered in snow and in that forest. Something to expand the environment a little bit. Or if we added a warm component, it would give us like something like amber, or something. Say we added some spices, warmer spices. It would give us that contrast of the cooling snow, the cooling outdoors, but also the warmth of the kitchen, but still keeping it candy peppermint, spice cabinet spice, still keeping it in the culinary world. Still smells tasty, but gives us the both experience of outside and inside. I'm being very picky here. Yeah, but I think the key to this peppermint is that it has that fresh mint smell. Like I can smell, I feel like I'm smelling a mint leaf. Snowy white. Let's see if we get fragrance notes on this one, or if this one's retired. It's retired. I feel like that's going to be something that we're going to be experiencing with a lot of these. And I want to thank Virgil for his contribution this Sunday. He wants to wish everyone a happy Sunday. Thank you for your super chat, Virgil. Those chalky mints, says DG. Spearmint? Question mark. Yeah, I was actually going to say spearmint on that candle. It's definitely peppermint first, but it could be the scenario where they put in a little bit of like a herbal spearmint in there to give it some complexity. I wouldn't be surprised. Oh, and it looks like you guys were talking about some of Mary Blair's work. Stephanie says the gorgeous mural at the Contemporary Resort at Disney World. Yes. Um, uh, very cool. Love to see you guys chat like this. Let's see. Let's do another one. Let's do one that I know they still make. How about that? I love the name of this one. Give me a second. But so they can use the word Sleeping Beauty, but again, they're trying to disguise that they're making Disney inspired products. So they've created this candle called Beauty Sleep. I mean, really, guys, with the labels on just in and of themselves, they're so much fun. And they look so great all lined up together. I guess the only problem is that they're so panoramic that you can't see all of them if you line them up. But Beauty Sleep, we even have some colored, I think the past, well, we've only, more or less the past two have been neutral, but we have this kind of soft pastel purple, lavender, or lilac perhaps. Beauty Sleep, obviously based on Sleeping Beauty. Perhaps this is an Aurora candle. Here we go. So that lavender is there. And that's funny because isn't lavender the right? Like lavender oil, lavender aromatherapy relaxes us, puts us to sleep. And there's that citrusy lemon juice, lemon zest. And you know how lemon and lavender can smell there's a couple approaches with lemon lavender. Sometimes you smell it like, whoo, that's really pungent, and it smells like the inside of a spa, and that could smell wonderful. And sometimes you smell like a lemon and lavender, like, ooh, maybe it's not inside of a spa, but it's very concentrated. It smells like a sachet that you throw into your closet. But there's a certain kind of lemon lavender. When I smell it, it actually makes my mouth water. it's it can have a balance that certainly goes in a delicious direction, and this is certainly for me where this is going. That citrus is so juicy, it's sweet and tart and zesty, that it's pulling me in the direction of like a sweet lemonade infused with lavender petals, or we could even go in a warm direction, like a warm ginger tea, a ginger infused tea with a little bit of lavender in there as well, and which is interesting because now honey is starting to come to mind. I don't know if honey is in this, but it's certainly pulling me in that direction. And I'm going very fast here because there's a lot to go on. See, this one's making up for it. That Beast Castle, not that it was a bad candle. It smelled very nice. I like it a lot. But this one's really getting my imagination going. And I kind of lost itself. So there is that lavender smell. But what is, what I think is a good thing to do is if you're going into something expecting lavender, throw in a curveball, include lavender, but what else is purple that you could probably sneak under the rug? What are the hidden things you can get into a candle, aroma wise, that you don't want to draw attention to, but you hide it in there, hoping people really don't notice it. But the effect is enormous. I feel like there's a scenario here where they're taking something that's purple, an association we have with purple, and kind of hiding it under the rug. Hopefully it can sneak by without making it too obvious. I just got to figure out what that purple is. I don't know. It's mm, it's sweet. It's sweet. What is that? What could be sticky, sweet purple, like taffy, cherry taffy? I don't even know of a cherry taffy. I guess unless you're thinking of something like Warheads, but it's not sour. It's not uh, purple. This is gonna kill me. I bet you when we look at the fragrance notes, we'll figure out what I'm missing. But this is really nice. This is a nice sleepy time candle, right? Beauty sleep. Perfect concept, right? We have that lavender, the lemon. Do we have the ginger in there? I'm going to say yes. I'm going to say yes. It's so hard sometimes when we have such strong associations. Are we really smelling it, or are we just smelling um, what we are used what we are used to? Let me say it this way. I was talking to a friend of mine, and he was talking about a dessert that he just had, and he said that it had macadamia nuts in it. He said it was so good, but I can't remember what it was. So we looked it up online, like what dessert did he have, and it ends up there wasn't macadamia nuts in the dessert that he had. What was in it was white chocolate. So you see what I'm saying here? We're so used to having that combination of macadamia nut and white chocolate that my friend, when he had this white chocolate dessert, his mind didn't even think white chocolate. It thought macadamia. And I think that, there's at least some of that to, at play in this candle here. But I would say certainly there is a fresh, like freshly grated ginger in this candle. Let's see what's in here. Mm. Mm. Scents. Beauty Sleep by Spire Candle. Pink sugar, in parentheses, sweet berries, fresh fig, fresh fig leaves, orange peel, end of parentheses, French lavender. Okay, so lavender, yes. I don't see anything about vanilla, and vanilla is certainly, there's got to be at least some degree of vanilla in here to soften it up, to give it a little bit of that creaminess that it has. Pink sugar, sweet berries, fresh fig leaves. So fig, I get that. I get that. That's that kind of that purple element. The sweet berries and the fig, like the darker black fruits, but I still feel like, yeah, I do like this idea. Like it does kind of smell like dehydrated fruit or raisinated fruit, sun-dried fruits. So like darker berries, fig, blackberry, black currant, orange peel. That is interesting. To me, this is lemon all the way. Now, orange, yeah, but I could not leave out lemon. And it says specifically orange peel. and not lemon juice or nothing about juice. You know, I'm smelling a quite a bit of tartness. I'm on the fence whether or not I smell that ginger, but there's something spicy going on here, and it's not listed. But that's fine. There's no reason why candle companies have to elaborate the actual ingredients of their candle. In fact, I enjoy this. You know, throw us a bone, but you don't have to give us the recipe of the candle. Uh, Either way, that is a wonderful candle. If you're not a floral candle burner, but you kind of want something that you would enjoy that is floral driven, lavender is always the way to go. This just smells fresh. It smells clean. And you know, I'm always talking about Yankee candles. Yankee candles are warm and cozy New England. Well, this is something, you know, a little bit outside of a typical Yankee candle, even though Yankee has plenty of citrus lavender scents. I like this one. I like this one. This was another very small run. The next one. It's called The Littlest Mermaid. Let me see. Yeah, I think this was like a one run kind of deal, but you never know. Maybe they brought it back. No. All right. So, Little Mermaid, tapping into some 90s aesthetics with the shapes and the colors here. Digging that, right? This looks like summer 1992. We have that beautiful aquamarine, some tentacles, and Ariel, or an undistinguished Little Mermaid in the ocean. Not Flounder, her little buddy, but another little fishy friend. So, Little Mermaid, Ariel, you know, uh, gadgets and gizmos aplenty. What does she do down in the deep ocean? She is inquisitive. She looks for things that are out of her world. She's she's an adventurer. She's what's the word I'm looking for? You know, she's got that collection in her little grotto of all of the little trinkets that she's found. The statue of the prince. She's found, you know, forks and all of this stuff, and she just dreams of being in the outside world. So, is this a candle that's going to contrast the smells of the deep sea and the land of uh, the two-legged humans, primates? Is it going to be a contrast of the two worlds, or is this all going to be oceanic? Let's see. I know they have a lot of ocean themes, Spireside. So let's see if this one is what we would expect, or maybe something that kind of can blow our minds. Immediately, we're in a world of tropical, like green tropical, like tropical grasses, tropical vegetation, but tropical fruits and also tropical florals. Let me see if I can dig further into that. So, not nearly as oceanic as I thought. Freesia, the flower, that very distinct citrusy flower that we, at least I associate with, I'm not, this is not a bad thing, but Glade bathroom spray. Like Freesia to me, citrusy florals will always remind me of people spraying after they use the restroom. for better or worse. Yeah, very, very green, grassy. Like so much so that if you've ever went to Jamba Juice or if you go to Whole Foods and buy wheatgrass and you juice it at home or you go to Jamba Juice, they juice it for you, that sweet, very strong chlorophyll shot, that juice that they give you. And then what do? You take that shot of that juice and then you chase it with the wedge of orange that they give you. You get that punch of sweetness, the punch of acidity, and a little bit of the zest. Um, think about that because there's a lot of citrus here, but there's a very, very concentrated green, tropical green aroma. But we have like pineapple, uh, pineapple and perhaps other melon fruitiness on top of here, on top of all of that. Very juicy, very tart, very sweet. That pineapple really matches the brightness of the citrus here. In fact, maybe they might not even say citrus because this pineapple is so bright. A little bit of, I know they won't say anything like this, but banana peel, you know, um, you know, when we smell banana or and we think banana, we think of yellow, but it's amazing for me at least if you smell a banana with your eyes closed, you'd be surprised that it's like, ooh, this is really a very green smell. Like when that banana is not ripe yet. Bananas have a very green smell, but we associate it with yellow so much. So when we just smell banana, sometimes our minds go to when we're searching for that aroma, it goes to the green side. But yeah, I'm kind of getting that plantain or underripe banana peel, but even like the little slices on top of, let's say we take a honeydew melon, cantaloupe, fruit salad, nice and cold. We take lemon juice and we squeeze the lemon juice all over that fruit salad. And then we throw on some of those slightly underripe banana slices. And of course, there's the pineapple too. Is there anything else? What is that? Mm. You know, the green in this might be described as like a seaweed or a kelp. I wouldn't be surprised if there's something in the fragrance notes to illustrate the salty air or the salty water, and I can see all of that. I mean, when I smell this, this is certainly a beachside candle, but I do not feel like I am submerged inside of the ocean. This is the beach, not the ocean. But as floral as it is, as green as it is, it's still very fruity, and I don't think it would upset a lot of people's noses. A beautiful summertime candle. And if you like that combination of tropical, citrus, and green, I think you'd really get a kick out of this one. But if you're looking for something that brings you under the sea, that's not the one. That's not, I don't think that one's going to do it for you. Hmm. Uh, and Dale too. I owe you a message if you're still here. Yeah, it's been a busy week for me, and we had those giveaways last week, and yeah, let's just say I really got behind schedule this week. So Matthew's book. Uh, Now this is the one Matthew sent to me, but I got a completely different edition when I ordered it from. Let me go grab it from Amazon. Um, it's really pretty. So I'm not sure which one you will get, but either way, no matter which one you get. They both look lovely. Yeah, look at this. Look at this. Yeah, I had this in my office. A very nice finish on this one. You know, it has that like nice texture. It's like soft rubber, a matte finish. And look at the snowflakes, right? Just prop that there. Put a little bit of like something red underneath that. Put it on display. And when you're feeling like you want to read a little something, you pick it up. So we had a giveaway for Matthew's Looking for Christmas novella. But if you want to get your own copy, it has my recommendation, my seal of approval. You can get your copy on Amazon today for like less than $9, maybe even less than $8. I can't remember. Good deal. Mr. Jams in the house. Thank you for your super chat. Mr. Jam says, happy Sunday to everyone. Hope everyone is enjoying the dark days of winter. Warm weather days coming soon. Have a great weekend. Great show, Shane. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Yeah, it's something we haven't even talked about. The weather. Woo! Just a reminder for anyone who doesn't know or doesn't remember, I'm in the Northeast, and since we had that really cold day, um, what was it, Friday, I haven't even really been out of the house much. So I don't know the extent, and I don't turn on the TV. I'm very much disconnected from like any sorts of news, even local news these days. So I don't know the extent of how cold it was, what the weather was like for the rest of the Northeast. But oh man, my pipes froze in my house, and it's not that I wasn't anticipating this, but I actually did everything to prevent it from happening. Got a lot of space heaters going next to pipes, left the water running a little bit, and yeah, woke up Saturday morning with no water. And that is okay. It was just the worry of the pipes exploding that was freaking me out. But I'm sure states or areas out east or north of where I am experience, can only imagine, like up there in Maine, New Hampshire, and Vermont. Matthew says that's the previous edition. Just updated it to what the copy that I sent you. Clearly, Amazon is a little behind. So I don't know. I think either way, it's a win-win situation. What you do is, if any of you folks order your copy, please, this will be fun. If you order your copy, put it somewhere, take a photo, take a fun little photo. It doesn't have to be beautiful, it doesn't have to be a piece of art, but take a photos, send them to me, candleenthusiast at Yahoo. Send me a photo, and then what I'll do is I'll take everyone's photo and I'll do like an Instagram of everyone's photos. You could just swipe through it. It'll be good exposure for Matthew, but also a great way for us to show off our photography skills. All right, let's do another candle. No, my pipes didn't burst unless somebody else had that issue. My pipes didn't burst, but the water froze. I've had pipes burst in the past, but I think I've made some repairs and did a lot of insulation to this pipe, so I was happy to see that nothing exploded this time, but I wasn't happy to see that they actually did freeze. All right, let's try to switch it up a little bit, because we're talking a lot about Disney animations, Disney films, but what about, I mean, this is a Disney film too, but we don't even have to talk about the film franchise. We could just jump right into the ride, and that's going to be Spireside Candles Pirates Revenge. And we have this catastrophic ocean scene of looks like two ships. Two ships or just one ship mirrored. Flames and broken bits and pieces of the ship floating on the waters. Pirates' revenge. It's not just like yo ho ho, a beautiful day at the sea. This is drama. This is the war in the world of um, pirating on the oceans, the deep seas. Are there any cannonballs? No cannonballs. And with the wax, what color is that? It's hard. It's such a warm light in here, but that's kind of like a grayish purple from what I can tell. Oh, Lori heard me wrong. Yeah, good. I'm okay. No burst pipes. Woo, this is all right. Okay, so I was wondering, again, this has been so long. I think they do have a Pirates of the Caribbean candle that is very reminiscent of like the ride, that smell that everybody wants, that smell of the flume ride, the water, whatever it is, the chlorine that they put in the pool, whether it be Pirates of the Caribbean or Splash Mountain or It's a Small World, that smell is yeah, it's so nostalgic and it's so great. But that's not what this is. This is something a little bit different. And we're in the world of lilies here, like that stargazer lily. Rosy musky, like lily of the valley. You know how lilies can have a little bit of that funkiness. That's interesting. You know, yeah, like lilies can have that. I mean, it's kind of, it smells pretty, but the more you smell, there's like, ooh, it smells a little bit like when you smell like topsoil. First, maybe it smells good, but then you kind of really start to process what the stuff is. Like after a while, and it's sitting in the sun or sitting in the back of your car, it's not as pleasant as it once was when you smell it. There's, that topsoil goes funky. Lilies can have that clawingly uh, uh, aggressive nature, and sometimes it goes to a funky, sour side. Do you follow me? I'm trying to describe it the best I can. Yeah, like orchids for days here. Like if orchids, a lot of orchids don't have smell, as smell. Um, but what you would imagine they would smell like, right? Very aggressive, tropical floral. And I'm letting my imagination do some work here, but I kind of do think I smell like some smoky burnt wood, some toasty wood, smoky, not necessarily like fire, but wood that has been burned, which kind of interesting, right? We see those bits and pieces of the splintered wood floating in the ocean. Yeah, I'm down with that. Like I'm not I'm confident that there is a woodiness here and there's something that's pulling my mind in the direction of smoky. I mean, we can also kind of suggest that smoky could be um, kind of the residual aromas of gunpowder from those cannonballs being shot into the sky. I don't think I smell that, but that's interesting. Because if I let my mind go there, it kind of wants to fill in those spaces. It kind of is starting to create this internal portrait of, being on this ship and just clouds of smoke around me, but not from the fire, from the ignition of all of these cannons and the crack and the sizzle of lighting, like I don't know, the wick. And this is not a Looney Tunes cartoon, but like, whatever the fuse on the cannon is. There is a green grassy thing though. Ooh, and that's interesting. It's like a mossy green smell. So, yeah, I mean, I suppose if this smelled like mildewy wood, like in the bowels of the ship, that might not smell pleasant. But if you replace that mold with the smell of like moss, you kind of get the same effect of like a saturated, old, mildewy, dark, the dark quarters of the bowels of the ship. But it actually doesn't smell bad. It smells very pleasant. And there is a sea salty thing here too. I don't think it's too complex, but I do feel like there is some kind of saline, salty sea salt thing happening here, and that really works with the tropical flowers. It creates that nautical situation. So we have that wood, we have a little bit of that smoke, and I'm sure there's a reason to this, but even if there wasn't a reason to this, it kind of works. There is something that kind of smells like burnt rubber. Um, it's not too strong, and I don't think it'd be like if you were lighting this and you got the little bit of that burnt rubber. It's not strong enough where you'd be like, "Oof, it smells like burnt rubber." Put it out. It's just this little subtle nuance that you pick up every now and then, but it works because that burnt rubber can really help illustrate whatever it is that's smelling like burnt rubber can illustrate the smoke. But I don't know. I'm sure if a boat was on fire, something would smell like burnt rubber. It's like if you had a pirate ship loaded with tropical flowers and topsoil, and the pirates had just made off with this, you know, shipment of florals, and now they're being taken down. The smell of an old ship on fire, being shot with cannonballs, loaded with fresh flowers, with the sea salty air. I like it. I like it. Very springtime. This would be a fun, very fun spring at night candle. Um, very fun. Doesn't necessarily remind me of the ride. That's okay. However, we have another, but this isn't Pirates of the Caribbean. This is Viking Voyage. Now, Viking Voyage, Maelstrom, the ride at Epcot. So, if you're Disneyland people, you may not be familiar. And Maelstrom, I don't know, is it there now? I know they did the Frozen overlay on that ride. But either way, a Nordic ocean. I love this. I mean, how intriguing. Cold ocean ships, Vikings. Let's get a close of the label. Okay, so we have the two ships. Look at the icy mountains. Ah, I love it. Just think of the sounds of two ships going at it up there in the icy waters. Let's see what this smells like. Ooh. All right, let this come to me slowly. Okay, so I'm going to replace the blueberry later, but right now let's go with blueberry. A blueberry lemonade. And why do I say that? Because I smell very bright citrus. Again, the juice, the zest, but definitely the perceived sweetness coming through. But it's not just lemon. There's something else making that citrus, bringing it in a different fruity direction. So some kind of blue fruit. Maybe we can go plum instead of blueberry, a different blue fruit. I'm okay with that. Imagine that, and a blueberry lemonade or a red plum lemonade. Actually sounds really good. But there's also that aggressive freesia in there. That that again, that Glade, imagine a Glade spray they use for your bathroom that's called like tropical water fountain. I'm sure at some point there's been a tropical water fountain bathroom spray. You know what that's going to smell like. It's going to smell like tropical flowers. It's going to smell like citrus. And freesia is usually that kind of flower of choice. So I'm not trying to belittle the fragrance. Whenever I say freesia, I'm not trying to, say, oh, it smells like bathroom body spray. No, that is my association. I'm not out in the wild smelling freesias and carrying them in baskets as I harvest them from the countryside. Sorry, that's not what I do. But I am familiar with Glade spray. Very peppery, spicy floral. Spicy, peppery greens. So if we said like endive or arugula, the spicy greens, got a little bit of that lemon flavor in like arugula, but you also got that like cracked black pepper spice and a little bit of that spicy green grassy. So interesting. Because this smells like a much more fertile location than what I would imagine, right? If we're in the Nordic, uh, I'm thinking of what do we smell? I mean, we don't really smell snow, right? We can't really smell ocean water, but right, we poetically, the smells of the cold, of the ice, of docking by the harbor, the materials of the boats, the masculinity of ancient uh, Vikings who were on those ships, the cold metal of their armor and weaponry. Um, these are the things that I'm thinking. I'm thinking of, and it's called Viking Voyage. The smells of adventure, the smells of exploration, discovering new lands, conquering new lands. So I'm a little off put, not by the smell itself. This is very pretty smell, but conceptually, I don't feel that connection, right? Because I feel like this should smell like cold iron. It should smell like murky ice cubes. It should smell like, uh, salt air that's encrusted itself on ancient wooden slabs of this Viking ship. That it should smell like the rawhide, the fur pelts that these Vikings are adorning during their voyage. Very pretty smell, but yeah, to me, this is still in that warm environment, lagoon, waterfall, green, floral location. That's all right. That's all right. How about we do like an autumn one? These are really cool. This one is called Pumpkin Carriage. And go figure, bippity boppity boo, we have Cinderella. Owl? We have this royal dog here. Um, a very blonde Cinderella. And what is that? Got a pumpkin pie. Of course, she's in the pumpkin carriage. The castle's in the background. Really pretty labels, right, guys? Wow. Let's see. We have obviously kind of an orangey pineapple mango-ish color here. Matthew with a super chat. Shane, just buying you a coffee as a tip for your detailed analysis today. Thank you so much. Yes, I very much appreciate that. And coffee is I'm glad you bring that up because I'm actually reminds me that I need to purchase some coffee tonight. Otherwise, I won't have any for the morning. Um, but um, but I do appreciate it. I mean, I love being here, guys. But yeah, I'll take a tip for coffee. That sounds like a deal. This is really good. So we're in pumpkin spice territory, but not really. Ooh, I gotta be careful here because I want to really get this. There is a okay. Okay, let's start with basic combination of spices for a pumpkin spice: cinnamon, and that's it. Maybe a little bit of ginger. Let's not even bring up the nutmeg. Let's not even bring up clove. That's usually not in a lot of people's pumpkin spice anyway. But let's just say cinnamon. And instead of pumpkin, let's go with like roasted squash with honey and that cinnamon. Tons of butter. Far too much butter. And let's turn that into a puree. We're making a soup here. We're making a warm, maybe we could turn it into a cold soup, but for now, to really imagine those warm spices, let's think about this being a puree. So we have this naturally very sweet, roasted, cooked down squash, which is bringing us, delivering that pumpkin gourd smell a little bit different. We're not smelling a raw pumpkin or even cooked pumpkin. We are getting more of that sweeter squash, but it keeps us in the same area, right? Plus, it's a very aggressively autumn time aroma, the roasted squash. But the butter, I mean, you could swear that you could smell like a layer of butter on the top of this candle, but not in a gross way. When something's like, ugh, it's, maybe it's good, but it's like, it's too buttery, it's too decadent. This is not too decadent. It's very balanced. Um, and I don't think for those who don't like those gourmand food candles, for some people it just makes them feel gross. The smell of food coming from a candle. Well, this one, I don't think it would have that same kind of effect because it's balanced. So what would happen if we put the honey and the squash in the oven and roasted them? Both the honey obviously has sugar, but also that squash has a lot of natural sweetness. And when we cook it, we roast it, we apply heat on it. Unlike toast, which is when a piece of bread toast, it's that Maillard reaction. What happens when we add heat to sugar, we don't have the Maillard reaction. We have caramelization, which is a non-enzymatic browning, I believe. It alters the flavor, the color as well. It's how we can explain toffee, how we could explain caramel and butterscotch. That flavor that comes as if from nowhere. And when you add sugar, of course, you're getting that caramel taffy. You add the butter is like frying, make it, is what's applying the heat to the sugar. Um, so, I'm imagining that like squash with almost like this creme brulee shell on the top, a little bit sticky, a little bit crunchy, a little bit brittle, a little bit of color to it. It's got a little bit of dark spots from where it's maybe heated up too much, like a creme brulee. But for the most part, it's that combination of the salty, sweet, buttery caramelization process with a little bit of spice. See, this is a pumpkin spice candle that's not going into monstrous baking spice territory. That is good. This is a really good candle. I wish we would see more of this. Werther's caramel hard candies or soft candies, either one. Those little caramel cubes. There's almost something in this that reminds me of candy corn. It's like a buttery candy corn. I guess that makes sense. Like, um, candy corn can sometimes smell and taste like caramel corn. So maybe we're getting like a caramel corn thing here. Yeah, I mean, there's more. This is more caramel driven than it is like spice, pumpkin spice driven. But I guess there's spice is not on here anywhere. It's just called pumpkin carriage. Either way, it's magical. It's delicious. It's not heavy-handed. I mean, it's decadent, but in a way of like, this is a pastry from a fancy restaurant, a fancy bakery, not an overly buttery pastry, let's say from a very good, but like a local diner. It's not, it's extravagant in a luxurious way, in a culinary way. Pumpkin Carriage by Spireside Candle. Yeah, we see that pumpkin pie down there, but don't be fooled. This is good any time of the year, but let's face it, yeah, like this would be a good if you're like a candy corn fan, like if you wanted something that had like a candy corn meets like butterscotch and like autumn cinnamon candy, like something in that would be a good candle for you. All right, we have three more. What time are we look? We're at an hour and a half. We could probably do this. Probably the most attractive label of the bunch. We have, I want to get the name right, A Walk Through Wonderland. We have the Cheshire Cat. We have Alice, caterpillar, the mushroom, the butterfly, the tea. Do we have the Mad Hatter anywhere? We don't. We have the rabbit, the castle. We have really the whole cast of characters here. So it doesn't give us a direction. This is Wonderland. This is not necessarily Alice. This is a walk through Wonderland. What would the experience be walking through Wonderland? What would it smell like? So pink wax, I don't know why that's relevant because really the first thing I'm getting is a very specific kind of peach. This is a boozy, slightly boozy. Like a lot of people don't like that word, but this has a spirit like peachy schnapps aroma. Like this isn't just like canned peaches. Like this is a very, I'm gonna say sour. Forget about tart. Very sour peach. And that word, effervescence, bubbles, sparkling, carbonation, whatever we want to call it, right? This is like if we made um, like a peach schnapps, carbonated alcoholic beverage that was loaded with raging um, citrus acidity to bring up that tart sour factor way up here, but still very sweet. Not very sweet, but sweet enough. Like it's kind of like bringing me to like wine cooler territory, Arbor Mist. But how about this? Bellini. So uh, Venice, right? Uh, the sparkling wine with the white peach puree. That's what a Bellini is. It's that sparkling wine. It could be prosecco. I'm trying to think of what the classic cocktail uses, but then you put in that white peach puree, which I'm sure has additional citrus, lemon, probably juice, and also some sugar. Yeah, like yeah, as I'm glad I said like Arbor Mist and wine cooler because that's really like where my mind went. But this does smell classy. Like this smells like doesn't smell cheap. Like this does smell like a good quality frozen or very cold cocktail. And speaking of that, it's kind of got that coconut creaminess too. So let's take that sparkling wine, if you want to say champagne, you can put that, you know, puree of white peaches with lemon juice, but it's actually a little bit frozen, like it's still got chunks of ice, and like you're dumping it out of the blender, and it's blop, blop, it makes that plopping sound as it goes into the champagne because it's still kind of frozen. Um, um, but then adding a little bit of that coconut cream that introduces this pina colada creaminess into that beverage. And let's garnish that beverage with a strawberry. There's a red berry note in here um, that is very nice because it pairs really good with that bright acidity. It makes that strawberry aroma in here seem very authentic because we're smelling that bright acidity. So we can even kind of say like pina colada, peach, and strawberry daiquiri. Mix those all together. This is really nice. I'm trying to think if there's like lesser things that I'm not getting. Like there is kind of like a greenish floral thing here. I'm not going to say floral. How I'm going to describe that is like peach skin. It's going to have a little bit of this, maybe if you want to say some leafage from the peach tree. Just get something that's in there that's a little bit green. It adds to the freshness. It adds to the depth. Uh, yeah, and the pineapple, that pina colada thing is really starting to come out now. Like the more I smell it, the more pineapple I'm getting. And I already said that coconut cream. But I really like that peach. I don't want to get rid of that. Let's see if they have this on the website. A walk through Wonderland. I like this one. Like this one is actually, like this is my, like if there ever was a hot weather summertime type of candle, it's this for me. I feel like this is a popular one. Do they don't have it. Well, it's a good thing this video isn't sponsored because I'm advertising a bunch of candles they no longer have. Yeah, and this is good. I mean, this is tart. It's sour. It's sparkly. It's bubbly. It comes. It's a beverage, and it comes in that stemware, and it's cold. It's got that the pulpy, macerated remnants of the peach and the strawberry and the coconut and the pineapple. That's a fun one. I guess no like tea in here. I guess we could make an argument that there's some form of like Mad Hatter's tea in here, but nothing pastry like tea party pastry almond extract. This is all about the fruity, refreshing cocktail beverage. How we doing here? All right. Fairy Flight. So a Tinkerbell themed candle here. We have another Peter Pan candle that we'll talk about, but Fairy Flight. So we have the lily pad, very green location in this forest. Obviously, maybe this is like a lagoon. It's not like beachside. Not a lot of cloud coverage. This is where like Tink and her friends hide out. The Fairy Flight, and it's very green. So I wonder if this is going to be like a lime cilantro kind of play, or if this is going to be more of that green vegetation, like green grassy tropical grass, or what I call the Everglades. Like navel orange, a lot of the pith, a lot of the white part. Tangerine, like, yeah, like really sour tang, like juice, right? Like the powdered drink. There's the pithy orange, mandarin orange. Maybe not tangerine, but mandarin. There's a very vibrant fruitiness of orange here. It's not, it's citrusy, but really we're getting a lot of the perfuminess of an orange. Oh, this is great. I'm loving this. Okay, so heavy-handed on this fruit. I mean, on the citrus. I mean, we could lay it all out. We could say heavy lemon. We could say there's lime in here. There's something like mandarin, tangerine. But a big note that I want to point out is that pithiness that I talked about, that white membrane in the inside of the orange that contains the bitterness, the astringency. The pulpiness, not necessarily the pulp, I should take that back, but the inside of the zest. So let's start there. That's it. It's ecto cooler, like hardcore. There's more than that, and I'll get into that. But it's so weird because I haven't actually smelled an authentic ecto cooler aroma in a long time. If you're not familiar with ecto cooler, In the late 80s, High C created a fruit drink. It wasn't juice, it was a fruit drink. It was green and it tasted like tangerine. And it was a licensed Ghostbusters product, had Slimer on the box. It was a collaboration that I don't know what studio it was, but High C sponsorship that they did a collaboration product to promote the Ghostbusters cartoon series after the release of Ghostbusters 2. And this juice was super nostalgic, probably had zero um, uh, nutrition to it. But you see a lot of like candies and things, people try to recreate this ecto cooler aroma, but that's what this is. It's a very, very sour, like mandarin tangerine orange. But what gives it an elegance is that there's a luxury to this. There's more than just bright bubblegum candy, citrusy malic acid. There's some kind of wooden note, a very soft, like driftwood note that serves as a base to all of this citrus. And that spectrum really makes a statement here. And because if this were all citrus, sour, candied, fruit juice, this could be easily taken into the world of novelty. But having a little bit of that organic, I don't know if it's like how we want to describe that. Just think of what you would expect if I, you were to smell a candle called driftwood. It has this kind of water-worn, antiqued, salty, obviously woody aroma, but faint. And there's some green in here. I definitely think that I guessed right. I think there is cilantro in here, and I wouldn't even be surprised if a pineapple was in the the fragrance notes. I just can't get over how aggressively sour. That is like the most sour orange candy smell. And you think that that would be tacky for something like this. It's not. It's playful for Tinkerbell. It's got that bubblegum, fun, youthful, fruity candy element, but it's still sophisticated enough and grounded enough in the world of like organic forest. A little bit of the green from the cilantro, but and possibly a little bit of that wooden note in the back. It's something that's giving it that driftwood aroma and perhaps a little bit of saltiness. Very refreshing. This might be like my favorite in that, like, this is the one that I would most want to burn straight up for the aromatics, like just something that smells good. Because I am all about citrus and I'm all about Tinkerbell. Yeah, Tinkerbell and I, we go back a long way. Go back a long way. Fairy Flight. Let's see if that one is still available for sale. I should have one of you guys doing this. Not that I'm trying to put you to work, but I'm sure some of you are on the website looking up these things, and it would save time. Neverland Mist is the next one. Neverland Mist. So another Peter Pan themed candle that is not available on the site. And instead of the fairies, although we do have a fairy right there, we have all of the ladies from Neverland. We have Tiger Lily. We have this rainbow, well, which makes sense because there's the ship, the flying ship. We have the croc. And we have the mermaids. So like another mermaid, like the Mermaid Lagoon in Peter Pan. Um, you know, you got the silhouette of Peter, Wendy, and Michael up in the sky. We have Big Ben, the moon. These images are loaded with detail. But really, we bring it back here. We have magic. We have the lagoon. We have a very relaxed nature, very lagoon water fresh. I'm expecting something a little bit less fruity here and something much more green. And I'm secretly hoping that it's not super floral because we've had several of those already. But with the green color wax, cucumber water. So forget about cucumber water. Take a cucumber, throw it in a blender. Don't remove any of it. Skin, whole thing, blend it up, and then throw in some ice water, and then blend it up again. Pour yourself a glass of that. Yeah, it's not just the meat of the cucumber, it's that green. It's refreshing. There's something about it. What is it about cucumber water that makes it so refreshing? Is it the minerals? I am getting, wow, it smells like cold water. Wow, like almost to the point where if you were dying of thirst, hopefully not dying, but if you were very, very thirsty and you smell this candle, like it would not be helping you out because there is a presence of cold running water in this candle. Waterfall, a babbling brook, or just a shaded lagoon where mermaids reside. We do have those green herbal notes. That's I shouldn't say herbal. Let's just green notes like that. That cilantro, that green, a little bit more of the cilantro to the wheatgrass, more of the green chlorophyll versus anything like a parsley or anything like that. Although cold parsley, like when you rinse parsley out, imagine you take some parsley, like curly parsley, Italian parsley, and you threw it in an ice bath. That would smell refreshing, wouldn't it? In fact, oh my God, it's amazing how these things unfold. I really smell parsley now. Like, unmistakable. If I had to choose one and one only green element to this, it is fresh parsley, the Italian of the Italian variety, like the flat leaf. It has that little peppery spiciness in the background. Wow, that's really cool. So this cucumber, parsley, no mint. The spice from the green gives it some spice. We don't really need any kind of spice elsewhere. And the deeply green organic aromas also kind of serve as a wooden note. It's not wooden, but it kind of fills in that territory. There is some floral notes here, but they're so disguised. And I think the combination of the green and the floral is evoking this fresh, clean water image in my head. But what is it that's making me think specifically cold water? That's what's got me confused. I mean, it is kind of cold in the studio now. Am I just, I don't know. If you really dial it in, I can perhaps see some tropical fruit in here. Uh, mm, I was going to say like star fruit, but maybe that's not quite right. You think star fruit, but what my mind is really saying is something more like lychee. Something that actually has a little bit more flavor, a little bit more aroma. Almost like a pear skin, like a Bartlett pear, the skin. You know how the skin is very aromatic, very uh, 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 almost has that fruity floral, the skin itself. And peach pit, just like the skin of a pear, the pit of a peach. Wow, that's a tongue twister. The pit of a peach has a very specific smell as well. So it's like a fruit cocktail, but instead of fruit floating in like a fruit punch, you have all of this tropical fruit, stone fruit, citrus in like a cucumber water, like a neutral water. And something in here is just really boosting the perceived coolness of this candle. This definitely does feel like something to put on to light after spending a day in the sun, whether it be sitting by the pool, sitting out in the back patio, or sitting, by your window open in the summertime, reading a book, maybe a fun fruity beverage to accompany you in your evening. Got a little tiger lily over there. Very, very nice. Neverland Mist. Look, some of these were really, really good. Some of them, you know, fine. They're serviceable. There's nothing I really disliked, but some of them are uh, outstanding. Maybe ones that I would skip on. I wasn't a big fan of the concept of the Little Mermaid or the Littlest Mermaid. It was too tropical for me. I wanted something that was a little bit more oceanic. Now, I can't hold that against the candle, but we are looking at a label of her completely submerged in the ocean, and yet we smell the beach. Still can't hold that against it. The beauty sleep candle was really nice, very useful. I think this is something that is very relaxing and could be put to practical use. Unfortunately, I wasn't completely blown away with either one of these. And the Viking Voyage was a little bit more of the disappointment because this was all about tropical, very, very fertile smelling candle, like life and flowers and fruit and green, and yet it's so cold. The label, kind of sets us up for something that should be, I don't know, something different. This pumpkin carriage candle was killer, killer. I really like it. This was kind of the anti pumpkin spice candle. You take the heavy spices out, it's everything else that should be great about a pumpkin spice candle. So it spends a little bit less time uh, in the spice cabinet as it does in the bakery. This walk through Wonderland, that fascinating, creamy, effervescent, fruity, champagne sparkling wine beverage. I'd love to drink a glass of that while walking around Wonderland. The fairy in flight. This was that the ecto cooler, insane tangerine orange. The Beast Castle. Let's give it another sniff real quick, just real quick. Yeah, it's like I think there is clove. I think did I say there was clove? Maybe I didn't say there was clove. It was not this one. Clove, clove, clove. Maybe there's that frankincense myrrh. That's probably what it is. The castle, frankincense myrrh, but it's not very strong. So more's coming through now. I think more or less, if you think of that abandoned church, maybe not abandoned, that's kind of weird. If you think of just that chapel or that cathedral, in the snow, in the cold, lots of fire and torches and candles and frankincense and myrrh, incense burning, like in that world. Really good. I just wish that it was a little bit more focused and had a little bit more strength on cold sniff. Um, the Bell's Boot candle. So angry at myself that I'd never even said that the leather was supposed to be the leather of the boot that I was smelling, of course, was really supposed to be the leather of the leather bound books. I didn't make that clear. And a lot of you probably thought I was like fascinated by a candle that smelled like the boots, dirty boots of Belle. Um, and snowy white, which is my kind of candle, but slightly underwhelming. Wish there was maybe another layer here. You know, we had the apple, the spearmint slash peppermint, you know, the herbal spearmint, but the sweet candy peppermint, and very, very sugary. But yeah, I'm kind of wishing there was something else. And yeah, that was it. And my Mountain Dew Zero that I'm still drinking 2 hours after I opened it. Still got half in here. Let's check in with you guys. How are we all doing in the chat area? Um, Shane, since we are on the topic of Disney, will you show the Beauty and the Beast dress that you made? Well, I didn't make it, um, but I did assemble it. What I did was what Adam is referring to. I showed it on one of my studio tour videos. From the live action Beauty and the Beast film with Emma Watson, um, they, you know, all the dresses and the wardrobing of the whole film was beautiful. But Belle was always my favorite Disney princess, and I always love costuming, wardrobing. Like, if you would offer me like a really cool prop from a movie, like a say like a prop book or a prop gun from a, you know, like, you know, Godfather or something, I'd rather be like, that's cool, but I'd rather like a jacket that Al Pacino wore in the film, you know, an article of clothing. There's just something about me. Maybe it's because uh, my maternal side of the family, they were like dressmakers, and all of my great aunts worked in their own dress factory. Maybe that somehow trickled its way down to me. But anyway, I love wardrobing. So when the live action came out, I'm like, I want to, you know, get, you know, all these pieces of her like dress from the small provincial town, not like the ball gown, but the kind of like the rags that she wore in her small provincial French town. So I did. I kind of reached out to some cosplay makers, just artists in general, on the internet, and I had a whole outfit for display purposes, not for me to wear. A outfit. Uh, you know, I wanted just like museum quality recreation of Belle, and let's see if I can show it right now. Again, you guys know that I am in the middle of like selling stuff and downsizing. But let's see if we can see it right there. So there we go. Let me try to see if I can pan around a little bit or tilt down. I'm trying to do this without seeing. So every piece of clothing was custom made except for the boots, which I just had to source. But yeah, it's what's great is like not only is it screen accurate, but if Emma Watson were to put that on, it'd be like custom tailored for her because I had all of the wardrobe makers, cosplay makers actually use Emma Watson's true to life measurements to recreate that display piece. Now, in a in a different world, in a different lifetime, I'd love to have like tons of characters from film especially Disney, but like have my own little museum in my home of just movie props and wardrobes. That was my attempt. I figured, I could probably do that relatively cheap. I made that several years ago. It took a nice long time to do it piece by piece. Even like the necklace that she is wearing was I got a very, very, very good photo of the real prop, the real necklace that she wore. Was able to see it up close uh, in the Los Angeles region, and yeah, I hired someone to actually sculpt it and make it, and there it is. So thank you for bringing that up. I always like to show off my stuff. Um, Parsley and cilantro, very refreshing. So it is. It is. Um, I'm trying to see. It looks like a lot of you guys are talking amongst themselves. If you guys have any specific questions for me, this is a great time to ask it. As always, I want to just take a quick second to promote a few things if you'd like to help support the channel. We have several new Patreon members who have joined us over the past couple of weeks. I want to welcome all of you folks. And as soon as we have like a new edited video, we'll get your names in that title sequence. But if you're interested in becoming a Patreon member or supporting the channel in any way possible or purchasing merchandise, all of those links, all of the things that you can do to help out are going to be in the description below. Um, and as always, I just want to appreciate for everyone who I do a little promotion at the end of the live every week, and then I see a little spike of people going and actually doing that, supporting the channel, and including the super chats throughout the live streams. It really just helps out. It helps out overall. I get to put away some money for future projects, but also throws me a couple dollars for my time, and especially when it comes to things like the stuff that none of us really want to do, but has to get done, like the editing, right? But huge thank you to everybody. And anything coming up, we guess we have Valentine's Day coming up. Maybe next weekend we can have a Valentine's Day themed live stream. Something I should say, this morning when I woke up, I was having my coffee. It's usually when I decide what theme I'm going to choose to do my live stream. I don't choose it days in advance. I always try to pick the theme the morning of because I want to do something that I'm in the mood to do. But I'm really like having a difficult time. This is a very difficult time to choose topics. So in the comments below, give me ideas. And I know a lot of you have. This is not to ignore those that have given suggestions, but give if you have any unique ideas of themes we could have for these Smell It Sunday live streams, please share. Even if it's a non-candle related topic, it'd be great to mix things up. This is just, this is where candle season. Let's face it, it just goes into dormancy, and you know. Yeah, candle discussions tend to freeze up a little bit this time of year, but that doesn't mean that we can't experiment and I don't know, keep things fresh. But I need your help. What coffee am I buying for the morning? I'll be honest, Matthew. Uh, I'm not drinking anything too special now. I'm just ordering whatever I can that's serviceable but affordable at this point. I just like with candles, I think most of us we go into phases and we come out of phases. I mean, I'm always a coffee lover, but I feel like there's certain times, it's not usually, the time of the year doesn't determine this. It's just kind of where I am. There's certain times where I enjoy the process of making the coffee in the morning and obsessing about it. And I still obsess about how I make the coffee. But right now, like, just having all these busy mornings. Don't really have time to, you know, um, do what I love. This time of year, like sit out in the back porch and enjoy those, like half hour in the morning while drinking the cup of coffee. A lot of everything is like move, 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 which is not always the case for me. So yeah, I'm getting serviceable coffee, and on the weekends I'll make something special, and I think that's just, I guess, a good point. I do need to um, get a little something special for next weekend because I certainly didn't have anything special coffee wise this weekend. I wish I could say I was drinking some fabulous geeky coffee, small production roast, but not the case. May I recommend Caribou Coffee? You certainly may recommend Caribou Coffee. Where are they based out of? Are they West Coast, Pacific Northwest, um, Michigan, maybe? Um, Caribou, that's a great name. I'll look them up. I won't forget that. I'll look them up. Um, Stephanie says, my mom was a fantastic seamstress. She used to make my Halloween costumes, and one year she made me a huge Annie doll. That's super sweet. Yeah, my grandfather was kind of similar. Wasn't a seamstress, but he was a woodworker. So I have all of these toys that thankfully I still have that he made when I was a child, like a life-size R2D2, like a legit pirate treasure chest. Like he made these things. Um, and as a kid, I thought it was normal, but I guess now as an adult, seeing them, I'm like, oh my God, how much work did he put into these things? Um, yeah, family is great. Stephanie says, did you say you sold all of the Funko Pops you had made? I have. The Candle Enthusiast Funko Pop, but that doesn't mean I can't make more. I don't know if I'll be doing it soon. I wanted to promote it on the one live to see if there was any interest. Very self-conscious making a little toy of myself, but I did make them, and they sold pretty well. I made a handful, so maybe we'll do a second run sometime. But I'm kind of wondering, you know, I've been doing my hair more long than I have like in the days of this Funko Pop. So, I don't know if it's a good representation of who I am. And I dress a little bit more down on the channel usually. I don't wear like the collared shirt and stuff. But we'll see. If anyone's interested, shoot me an email. Mm. Dale says, I might have missed this, but do you have a favorite Disney ride? Very hard question, as it is for everybody. But I think the one that really comes to mind when you ask that question now, Dale, is Splash Mountain. And as you may or may not be aware, Disney have closed both Splash Mountain and Disneyland and Disney World um, temporarily, but it's going to be several years for a massive refurbishment. But this refurbishment will not be including the old cast and characters of the 1988 Splash Mountain ride, which is very sad. I have to say, like, you know, I had some friends ask me if I had any interest in going and riding Splash Mountain before they closed it, one last time. And I'm like, I don't know if that would have been healing for me. Like, I think it would have been just too sad. It's amazing how emotional you can get over just a ride. But that was one that, I don't know. There's something like the first time I ever went to a Disney park was in 1988, the summer that Splash Mountain opened. So, although, I only have partial memories of that trip, there's something about that ride that it's like whenever I step into it, whether it be the queue to get onto it, the line, or just going through the interior. It's just the music, the animatronics, so nostalgic, deeply, deeply emotionally nostalgic, as if it's like I'm accessing a memory of mine from a very, very, very young age. That's for me, that's a very special feeling. So to see that go is kind of sad. So I will say I can't say that Splash Mountain is my all-time favorite ride, but it's a favorite among my favorites. Virgil says, "That's funny. I made a Funko Pop of myself too." I'd love to see that, Virgil. Um, I'd love to see what you did there. It's kind of a making your own Funko Pop is an interesting experiment because you really don't have a lot of stuff to work with, right? Like you can't alter the shape of the head too much. You can't really do anything with the eyes or the some of the smaller features of the face. It's really just the embellishments of the character that you really have to sell. Um, so when I was making my own, I found it actually quite challenging. Caribou Coffee out of Minnesota. Fantastic. I will look that up. No more Splash Mountain, but Tiana's Bayou sounds amazing. Yeah, so Tiana, as in the Princess and the Frog, Tiana. Um, Fantastic. I'm so glad that they're not just because of Tiana, a princess, giving her like a ride or some kind of attraction, but like especially in Disneyland, like they need more of that New Orleans thing going on. Like New Orleans Square is great. I think it's always been great, but it's like I kind of feel like it pitters out a little bit. Like Haunted Mansion's kind of got like the plantation house, kind of the southern thing. But we need more of that like New Orleans jazz, that vibey kind of romantic, romantic jazzy New Orleans feel. And I feel like having a Princess and the Frog ride, um, as long as it's not too similar to the feel that we get from like again, we have Pirates of the Caribbean, which is to me, at least the opening of Pirates of the Caribbean has that very uh, bayou, uh, uh, southern feel to it. I'm not finding my words good. Yeah, so Princess and the Frog, Tiana, awesome that they're getting their own thing. I'm interested to see what they do with Splash Mountain, and just sad to see it go. All right, folks, we've hit 100, nearly 140 minutes, a little bit longer stream today than usual, but that's good. We got through a lot of candles. I want to thank you guys for tuning in. I really appreciate it. I really do. And I hope that everyone has a very peaceful week. Everyone that has a peaceful week, and that you're also finding peace with the week that has passed. Both are very important. And yeah, let's 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 catch up. Let's talk in the comment section. I'll make it a I'll make a strong purpose to go and actually to respond this week. You guys know that I don't usually go through all the comments and respond. That's not because I don't read them. There's other reasons, but let's come up with some ideas for future weeks. See what you guys are interested in. See what kind of questions, comments, statements that you guys have. We'll kind of connect that way. And for the time being, have a wonderful week. I will see you folks soon. But until then, be good and always remember to live enthusiastically. Thanks, everyone. Really appreciate it as always. Have a great Sunday night. Bye-bye.